Welcome to the Bend Don't Break podcast. We are powered by The Source, Bend's locally owned media company and weekly newspaper. This podcast is our eddy in the rushing waters of local journalism. We are glad that you're taking some of your time to listen to us chat with the people who shape our local community. Support us through our member program at bensource.com.
Thank you to our presenting sponsor, RE/MAX Key Properties, a family-owned full-service real estate brokerage specializing in residential, luxury, commercial, new construction, and ranch and land properties. Their new state-of-the-art facility at 42 Greenwood Avenue is a modern, collaborative space and the new home of the Bend Don't Break podcast recording studio.
I'm Aaron Switzer, publisher of The Source and co-producer of this podcast with Megan Burton. Thank you for listening today, wherever you are. There's a lot of things that can take your time. We're glad you're spending a little bit of it with us on the podcast. Today we have Alisa.
Good job.
I said Alyssa, listeners, and I got corrected. So Alisa Dunlap is Alisa Dunlap is Pacific Power's Regional Business Manager for Central Oregon, bringing more than 15 years of experience spanning customer engagement, infrastructure development, government affairs, public policy, and regional economic development. Throughout her career, Alisa has served as a strategic liaison between business, communities, government entities, and utility organizations. She has successfully negotiated commercial energy agreements, supported major infrastructure and transmission projects, and helped align utility planning with customer growth objectives. Based here in Bend, Alisa is passionate about supporting sustainable growth, strengthening community partnerships, and helping businesses and regions prepare for the energy needs of the future, particularly our region. Alisa, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Gosh, that intro makes me sound really important.
It comes from you guys. We edited it a little bit, but yeah, I think it's probably warranted, but we'll chat and find out.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
So, let's just start with where did you go to school and how does one get into the field of energy management?
Yeah, goodness. School brought me nowhere close to where I am today.
What was your undergrad?
My undergrad was double major in political science and philosophy. I thought I was going to go to law school.
Yeah.
Got an internship. Decided nope, being a lawyer was not for me. So I needed to find another path.
Right.
So I said I love to learn. I'm going to go to graduate school.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a master's in political science in Boston and thought I was going to go work in some sort of international economic development. But then my husband said, well, hey, wait, I want to go to graduate school. And so that took us to Portland.
Yeah.
And I said, wow, I know really not a whole lot about Portland.
Yeah, so you're an East Coast girl.
No, I grew up in California. I went to undergrad at UC Davis.
Okay.
And the only thing I really knew about Portland is that it was green and that it rained a lot. And I said, well, I guess I need new clothes.
Right. I always think of political science majors as the highest of the dreamers. I was a political science major for a year and a half, and at least for me, the mentality was, well, I can go anywhere from here. And, I could go into politics. I could be president. You never know. And so when I hear of other political science majors, did you have similar aspirations where you it's open-ended, right?
Absolutely open-ended. I have never really aspired to public office. I greatly respect our elected officials, but I think that is just a very, very tough position to be in. But yeah, I really had no grand plan. I thought I was going to live abroad. That was kind of my grand plan. But I've traveled abroad, but never lived there.
Right.
But love where I live. So it all worked out.
So when you got to Portland, what was it that you began to work as?
Yeah, so I ended up at Oregon Health and Science University, OHSU. They really took a chance on me. I was brand new to the state, but I did all my research. I didn't come from a healthcare policy background. All of my political science experience was international work.
Yeah.
But man, did I study up on the Oregon legislature, and OHSU hired me in their government affairs department.
Okay.
And
so you put your political science stuff right to work.
I did.
Yeah.
I had really amazing mentors at OHSU, and I could not, I'm just forever grateful for their mentorship. And then, after about 3 or 4 years there, I decided maybe a different policy area might be something that I wanted to try out.
Yeah.
Had a friend that was working at Pacific Power, and he kind of said, "Hey, there's an opening in government affairs. You should check it out."
Yeah.
And again, I went in and said, "Well, I've been in the state for only 4 years. I know nothing
Right.
about energy policy,
Yeah.
but I know the legislature.
Yeah.
So, and I know the policy arena. I really enjoy
Yeah.
policy engagement. I really enjoy regulatory environments." So
Mm.
again, got hired
Yeah.
at Pacific Power, and I'm just incredibly grateful for my prior mentors and people that have taken chances on me and given me really amazing opportunities.
When you so what year was it that you first got in with Pacific Power? When would that have been?
2010.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2010.
I mean, power policy has always been pretty spicy, but I gotta say, like, you didn't know what you were getting into in 2010 compared to what power is today.
Yeah, I exactly. I think the landscape has changed. I think if anything, it's gotten more interesting
Yeah.
and more engaging. And since I've left government affairs, I've kept some of that policy engagement, which is still really something that I enjoy and
Yeah.
something I enjoy doing. And I get to do that here. Some of it at the hyper local level,
Right.
some still engagement at the state level. But energy policy, I think, will just continue to be something that's of top of mind for folks as we just become ever more connected.
Ever more power users. I mean, I've been I wouldn't say I'm tracking my power usage, but I would say with all the debates around power these days, it's certainly more top of mind. Like, what kind of user am I? Like, am I a light user? And you can walk into the source offices and know you're a high user. Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the kind of amazing things I've seen over the years at Pacific Power is the tools we've given customers to have that insight into their own energy usage. So
Yeah.
you can, as a residential customer, go in and look, where am I peaking?
Yeah.
You can find out if your teenagers are watching TV or using the dryer in the middle of the night. I mean, maybe not quite to that granular level, but you can really see where your usage is going.
Yeah, I got to imagine that things like the Nest thermostat and a lot of that tech stuff that's come into the home has greatly enhanced your company's ability to communicate to people. Like, you can see it now.
Absolutely. And I think it's also allowed us to really find programs that work for customers and
Yeah.
really tailor different types of customer programming to what customers are interested in. And I think that is only going to ever change as we move forward.
So you're in Portland at Pacific Power. What's the hop that gets you over into out of the wet and into the dry here?
Yeah, well, I actually went wetter after I left Portland. So I became a regional business manager in 2015. I covered Multnomah County. I also
Okay.
covered Clatsop and Lincoln County, which are two coastal communities,
Yeah.
and it rains a whole lot more on the
Yeah.
coast than it does in Portland, but ended up living out in Clatsop County
Okay.
for a number of years. And what a beautiful place.
Yeah.
Man, my husband and I just feel completely grateful for
Yeah.
the opportunities
Look
we've
where you've
had.
been moving.
We've been
Yeah.
to a
Right.
really the tour of Oregon.
Yeah.
And so we were out there for quite a number of years, and then the opportunity for Central Oregon came up. So it was a
Yeah.
lateral move for me, but I mean, Central Oregon has got so many amazing
Yeah.
things for this particular role.
Yeah.
Not only is the growth from a customer perspective just like nowhere else in our system, but you're also working on big projects like transmission projects
Yeah.
and getting into some of the more sophisticated customers that have really interesting questions. I have amazing conversations with customers that
Right.
I am just so grateful for those questions because it helps me learn and grow. And I'm not an engineer by background, as we
Yeah.
discussed,
Right.
but I certainly work with a lot of engineers and have to figure out how to answer those
What
customer questions.
what are the boundaries of your district? Like, what you oversee?
Correct. I cover Deschutes County, where Pacific Power serves. So there's also Central Electric Cooperative, who serves the community, Crook County, Jefferson County, and Warm Springs.
Oh, okay.
So CEC does overlap in some of those areas, as does Mid-State as you get a little further south in Deschutes County. But
Right.
Pacific Power has service territory in all those locations.
So I am extremely ignorant in the dynamics of, all of the rural versus urban, increasingly urban bend. What does that mean for your position? I mean, I got to believe, and we're booming, and power needs here have got to be booming as well. What does it look like for you as you're planning or for your management purposes?
Yeah. I mean, somebody once
Because I
told
think
me,
people just expect that line's going to show up at their house, right? No one's like, oh, they'll get here eventually.
and it does take extreme planning. So, from a utility perspective, we do long-term planning,
Right.
which is, 20-year horizon. What are we seeing? Then we do
Mm.
shorter term planning. We do hyper-local planning. And for a community like Central Oregon, where, Deschutes County is growing faster than any other county we have in our service territory by leaps and bounds.
So you're an
Uh,
important person in the company hierarchy.
I need to be able to inform
Sure.
the executives that are making decisions about where to put resources and where to find capacity and where to build substations. Absolutely. And
Right.
I can only get that from customer input, right?
Right. Right.
Or from policy decisions that are being made at the local level. So it is really a team effort,
Yeah.
and super interesting to work on things like substations, because as we all kind of were discussing, we are increasingly power users,
Yeah.
and yet when it comes to siting a substation, figuring out where it should go, how to direct the lines to where they need to be, I mean, those get into very difficult, sometimes, community conversations,
Yeah.
and I'm there to provide a support and a liaison and to listen and to make sure that we're balancing all of those things as we move forward with our planning.
Yeah. I mean, increasingly we've seen, you in your planning, you're picking out these communities where substations are going to probably based on your planning and the government inputs that you're getting, where the user needs going to be great. But you're getting stymied now on the public level with protests around substations, AI conversations that are coming in. How do you navigate all that?
I mean, first and foremost, I listen,
Yeah.
kind of in all of those spaces. But I think, we are a highly regulated business. We have land use requirements that are set by either city, county, state,
Right.
federal. So we have parameters that we work within.
Right.
But really, it is a education campaign as well to make sure that the misinformation that's out there, people are receiving appropriate information and
Right.
accurate information. And I do think there is a huge element of learning to hear what are people's concerns and how to address them. And sometimes that's just a further conversation. Sometimes it's, education. But I do a lot of listening. Sometimes my colleagues, who also operate around the state, we kind of say that we're,
Yeah.
regional therapists
Right.
sometimes.
Right.
But I actually really enjoy those customer conversations or community conversations, because then you really find out what people are interested in and what their aspirations are, what or how they feel about your industry. So I find those conversations really rewarding.
When you talk about planning for Central Oregon and its growing needs, I mean, a lot of there's so much. I mean, everybody loves the little benefits that AI brings, but there is a ton of lashback on what AI is and what it's going to do to communities. Is it fair, given how much development there is, to label these substations as AI substations? I mean, that's just a question that I have because when you hear these things going in and they're labeled, they're AI, this is going to be used for AI. Is that accurate, or is it that that AI is a big part of what that's going to be? How can people differentiate like a good substation from an AI? Is there such a thing? Is there a bad AI substation?
Well, I guess I'm a little confused by the terminology
Right.
myself. So I mean, a substation is a substation is a
It's
substation.
power.
It's power. So where it goes, I think, is really the question that you're asking.
Yeah.
And the Oregon legislature in, let's see, not 2026, but 2025 was very clear, when they passed the Oregon Power Act, that data centers, AI
Right.
data centers, generally speaking, large users, are required to pay for the infrastructure that serves them. So if there is a substation going in next to a data center, that data center has paid for that infrastructure.
Okay.
It was very clear by the Oregon legislature that any load size. So that's what we use to determine what's a large load or what's a small load.
Right.
Anything over 20 megawatts in the state of Oregon is considered large load. And so that would be fall under the Power Act. Currently, right now, we are in a regulatory proceeding at the Oregon Public Utility Commission, which is our regulator at the
Right.
state level, to determine
PUC.
the PUC. Yes,
I know
to
it's
determine
enough to be dangerous. But yeah.
to determine kind of what that looks like. How does the implementation of that law look like from what we consider, what we call tariffs or rate schedules? How does all of that work itself out? And that's currently under review
Right.
right now.
When you so how is it that currently, given the environment, how are you planning, or what is Pacific Power's process, especially in Central Oregon, for planning where these new substations are going to go, how you're interacting with data? I mean, that's got to be your, if it isn't fire, which we'll get to in a second, it's got to be data centers next. So
Actually, the organic load growth in Central Oregon is really what's driving
yeah,
the percentage of load change. It's not data centers.
yeah,
And again, like I said, data centers are in their own class. They have their own rules and regulations that are being worked out right
right,
now. But just the general customer interconnection queue, which is what it's called when
yeah.
a customer
The
comes to us.
interconnection queue.
Yeah, when they come to us and say we would like power,
Yeah,
it is vast here. And my
yeah,
project list, I primarily only work with customers that are 1 megawatt and above. But let's use Jack Straw as a really iconic building and
yeah.
vent. That building, the
That,
load of that building is equivalent to like small manufacturing
okay.
because it's an all electric building. So the landscape in Central Oregon is such that the number of customer projects in that interconnection queue is
Yeah,
vast, and that is what informs our planning. So we look at that list and we say, okay, we have this large interconnection queue. Where are they all located? Do we have substation capacity? If not, do we have room on our property to add a transformer to add capacity?
yeah.
If not, well, we might need to go procure land to build a new substation.
Let's use Jackstraw as an example, because
Yeah.
as it's coming in, it's certainly going to change the infrastructure.
hmm
You know years in advance that that thing's coming, but you're responding to the fact. I mean, you're kind of watching the city as they go approved, and then it comes sliding over to your desk. Is that fair to say, hey, this is coming?
Sometimes, but honestly, I try to tell customers early and often with communication.
Yeah,
So let's use bioscience as a good example of a
yeah,
thriving industry here. So we've got multiple bioscience
yeah,
companies here, and I'm in almost daily conversations with many of them. And they are changing their projections or what their needs are. And that is an ongoing conversation planning years in advance. We're
right.
talking 5, 10 years in advance. And that's the kind of customer sophistication and the kind of customer engagement that we as a utility really like,
Yeah,
because then we can plan for that. And I think customers, especially here, are sophisticated enough for the most part to do that early and often communication. I have an email that's sitting in my draft folders that literally walks a customer through what the interconnection process is like. And I probably hit send on that about 4 or 5 times a day,
wow.
given,
Yeah,
depending on what the day is.
I'm
And
encouraged that you think people are sophisticated in this kind of stuff. It makes me feel behind the curve, but
we have some really, really sophisticated engineering and
yeah,
architecture firms here that I
uh,
think have worked with Pacific Power enough that they know our
yeah,
processes, and they advise their clients and they say, go talk to the power company ASAP. And I often will get requests of, hey, we haven't even gone
yeah,
through site review or planning with the city. Can you tell us what the capacity is at such and such a
sure,
site?
yeah,
So in that way, I think we are in a unique position because I've now worked in 7 counties across the state of Oregon, and I'd say this one is more sophisticated
yeah.
in knowing to do that early.
I wouldn't. I mean, I know no disparagement out there at the city planning process, but it can be herky jerky. I don't think anybody enters that process and goes, "Whoo, smooth sailing, got in, whoop, approved, boom, we were into shovel ready." So when you're sitting there, you're kind of, you must have some kind of like, you know, track of
Spreadsheet.
horses going across the line and then not going across. And yeah, some would call it a spreadsheet.
Yes, absolutely. And I feel like it's helpful when customers know where they are in that process, and it's helpful to know how what is their confidence that their project is going to move forward.
Yeah.
I mean, we can only do planning for the amount we can do planning, right? People give us load projections. No customer has ever hit exactly the load
Right.
that they say they are going to. And so we have measures that diversify that load so that, we are planning for what their expected need is, depending on if they're a 24-hour operator, if they're only operating, 8 hours a day.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into those calculations, but it is a different process too, working regionally, because there's different processes in the city of Bend versus the city of Redmond
Oh,
versus
yeah.
the city of Prineville
Well,
versus
when you
Madras.
were talking about people getting in the queue, I was thinking the folks in Redmond got to be so needy because there's so many of them, and that place is exploding. I mean, I know Bend is growing as well, but when I go through Redmond, and going from 0 to 60, right? Like, you can't have had a lot of built-in infrastructure before that train took off, and the airport.
Agreed.
Is that
Yes.
yours?
It is. So Redmond is our fastest growing city across all of our 243 communities. Second is Bend.
Right.
So you're neck and neck
Yeah.
there. But yes, Redmond is a challenge in some ways.
Yeah.
But we have 2 substations right now that are in process of being upgraded, and a third that we were in land negotiation for procuring for a new substation in
Right.
Bend.
Which
Or,
just gives
sorry,
you
Redmond.
a sense of what's going on there. I
Yeah.
mean, you can drive through on the highway and look left and right and see it, but it's so vast, the amount that they're developing there, and more power to them. I mean, I just flew in the other day and I was like, Skansa's here, like, this
know.
is that's a big name to bring into little old Redmond.
I did too, and, in my previous region, I managed PDX, and
Okay.
they were also going through massive
Yeah.
change and massive growth at PDX, and I'd say, our airport here is quite remarkable for the size of community we have. We're very lucky.
Yeah. Well, we had mentioned, I want to get the name right, Blueprint 500 kV, Project Blueprint. Maybe elaborate a little on.
So Project Blueprint is our 500 kilovolt, so kV stands for kilovolt, transmission line. So transmission is the highest level voltage that a utility will have, and the line's going from Klamath Falls to Central Oregon because of our growth. It is for capacity. So right now,
Is there one that's 500 kilovolts coming up from Klamath Falls, you're saying?
this will be a new line.
Okay.
So I was just about to say the current lines that you
Wait,
see
let me
out
interrupt you again. Was it?
the current lines that you see out there, the big steel structures, the kind of,
Right.
unsightly ones, those are all owned by Bonneville Power Administration, or BPA. So BPA is the largest transmission owner in the Northwest. We are second. So this is an opportunity for us to expand capacity into the region because those BPA lines are fully subscribed,
Okay.
meaning they are at capacity.
How
So
many of these lines currently come into Central Oregon?
a 500 line. I could say a number, but
stumped her.
BPA has all
Yeah,
of them.
right.
So like
Okay,
BPA
yeah,
owns them. So
yeah.
I'm not as
So
familiar.
this will be the first Pacific Power line of this size.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, coming
Yeah.
into Central Oregon. We have smaller voltage
Yeah.
transmission in the region, but this will be the biggest 500 line. Yeah.
And it's coming from Klamath Falls?
It's coming from Klamath Falls. So there's a big transmission substation already down in the Klamath
Okay.
area, which is, people ask, well, why Klamath? Well, there's a transmission substation which taps into generating capacity across the West. So how it works is you have a generation facility. Oftentimes those are maybe in the middle of nowhere. Sometimes they're not. But you got to get that power
Right.
from the generator to the home. So you have to go over a transmission line and then into a substation, which I like to consider, like, I think of it kind of like a post office.
Yeah.
You take in the giant packages or the giant shipments, the post office then puts it into smaller packages that are out for delivery to a home, and that's what a substation does. So it
Okay.
steps down a voltage, and then you can deliver that power safely to a house.
So that's currently being constructed by you guys?
It is in scoping right now.
Okay.
So we did a round of public comment and public review last summer. We will be doing another round of public comment at the end of August. And we basically went from a whole bunch of route options and put all of those out there. There were 5 of them for public comment, and we've done a bunch more scoping and environmental review, and kind of narrowed those down to 2 routes.
Okay.
So those will be publicly reviewed at the end of summer. We'll take public comment. I think right now the comments, there were 800 and something written comments, and we got 75 voicemails. And then a lot of engagement from those public open houses that we
Sure.
did. So from there, then we'll try to take it down to a place where we can find a route that is least impactful. We know transmission and energy infrastructure is impactful, but we're going to try to find the least impactful route
Right.
that we could go in for permitting. And there's multiple layers of permitting from federal all the way down to potentially county level.
Yeah, in another lifetime, it seems my wife was an archaeologist who worked on gas pipelines through Native American lands and coordinating all everything that goes into coordinating a line that's got to pass through multiple city, state, native areas, private property, and so I don't envy you that process. It's every one of those little they look like robots, right? Down the line is somebody's land,
Yeah,
So
it's a difficult process.
how long does that process take, do you think, from the point you're at now to breaking ground?
I mean, we are hopeful to have not even broken ground, but in service, like the line is usable
Okay.
by the mid 2030s. I
Okay.
think that's an extremely aggressive timeline, but I am hopeful.
Yeah.
It's needed. The
Yeah.
region needs it. Like I said, fastest growing community
Sure.
across our service
Yeah.
territory. Um, so
Yeah, I
we'll
can't
see.
imagine there's much of there may be an argument about where, but I can't imagine there's an argument over if it's needed.
Yeah, or why
Or
it's
why
needed.
it's
Yeah,
needed.
I
Yeah.
feel like most of the public conversations I've had are about where.
Turning in the last time we have, it's super dry out there. It's definitely fire season. Increasingly, electrical lines are something that people are very concerned about during the season. I'm sure it keeps you up at night. I mean, those red flag warnings that come over on your phone, I consider, since I'm not in the industry, somewhat annoying. But for you, it's got to be a part of your job. What's it like now during these summers?
Yeah, well, safety first. So we do
You can now shut power off,
we
right? To areas.
but let's talk about
Okay,
that because
shit. I'm sorry.
I think there is some miscommunication and misinformation that's out there. So Pacific Power has been operating under what we call seasonal operational practices
Yeah.
for several years now, and there are 3 of them. The most extreme is a public safety power shutoff or a PSPS,
Right.
and that is the one that people think we do, and we've only ever done one in the state
Okay.
of Oregon,
Yeah.
and that was in 2022.
I mean, personally, I think it's great. I mean, I don't know if you get people who think that's a bad thing, but if there's fire coming in, shut it down. I mean, that's just my podcast opinion. So yeah.
Well, thank you for that. All of this is under the guise of safety and keeping
Yeah.
our customers and our community safe. But a PSPS comes with a lot of communication protocol, as advanced notice as 7 days. So, and it is all weather driven and conditions driven, relative humidity, all of that. The second operational practice is emergency de-energization. So we've had a few of those in Central Oregon, and that is a direct result of active fire. So active fire headed toward a asset of ours, electrical infrastructure
Substation,
of
yeah.
some kind, and we will do a proactive de-energization or emergency because there is an emergent event happening at the
Right.
time. And there have been a few of those. But again, we try to do as much isolation of the system, so having the least number of customer impact possible. And then the third one is called Enhanced Safety Settings or ESS. And that is a practice that can make the system more sensitive. So I like to think of it as under conditions that are not seasonal operational practices, The system basically has a 3-touch system before a customer experiences an outage. So if we have a tree branch, a leaf, a squirrel, a bird, whatever it is, touch a line, the line will try to reclose itself 3 times before a customer experiences an outage.
And people, I think some people are aware of the process where all of a sudden the lights go out for a second, and then you kind of wait because that power is being shut off and on and off and on. That's that's what people are experiencing. That kind of.
That is not what people
Oh, because I always think they're blowing the line or something. Squirrels on there and they got to get it off.
I mean, sometimes under normal operation, like if those 3 attempts to reclose can do flickers, but normally customers see nothing
They don't
unless the system tries to do that 3 times and it says, nope, there's still something that's a disturbance. And then a customer experiences an outage. What happens under ESS is it's a 1-touch. So a wind gust that might have debris in it, a leaf, a tree branch, a squirrel, bird, all of those things. Now the system is under ESS and it's a 1-touch. So any of those things squirrels are very common.
I feel like I'm reinforcing urban myth here. Like, it probably, I'm thinking it probably comes from my dad. There's going to be another one here. Watch off, so. Or let's lay that to rest.
But I will say ESS, it can be, a major disturbance for customers. It is, we recognize it makes the system more susceptible to outages, and they can be longer in duration as we patrol and try to find out what the cause was. And we know that those are, it is difficult for customers. But it is for safety purposes. And we continue to do system isolation to try to put those systems in place to really make sure that it's only in those high risk areas that we have those practices operating.
I mean, you had mentioned that Central Oregons are kind of savvy, but I do feel like people of late are more attentive to what it means to get power, just because they understand the risks that come with it. And I mean, if people are out there complaining that there are precautionary measures that we taken to avoid fire and stuff, and their power goes out, I would hope, if you're reading, that there's a little understanding on that side, because it's a complicated and dangerous system.
Yeah, I think that's very aptly put. And all of these practices are for public safety.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want the line going down in my driveway.
No, me either.
I've seen it. In Atlanta, a tornado came through one time and the line was dancing in our cul-de-sac,
And I hope you stayed
far away
from
I was looking out the window, but I was like, that is bad, Anyways, so, it was scary. We are actually at the end of our podcast.
Summer.
Is there?
Okay, keep talking.
I feel that. Is there anything that we didn't touch on that you wanna speak to before we let our viewers go on their merry way?
Not really. No, this is a lovely conversation. Thank you for having me.
Well, I don't envy, or in some ways maybe I do envy the fact that you're in such a dynamic position right now. I mean, 2010 to what it means to be the front person for power to the area and people's awareness, how much it's in the news. It's that, what's the Chinese proverb? They say it's Chinese and cursed to live in interesting times, that these are interesting times for power, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy to talk more anytime.
All right. Thank you, Lisa, for being here with us today. This has been the Bend Don't Break podcast. If you like what you heard, go to bensource.com, become a member, donate, and we will bring Alisa back and see how she is after the large 500 kilovolt line comes up from Klamath Falls. I'm intrigued. You've been listening to the Bend Don't Break podcast, powered by The Source Weekly. To read, hear, and see more of what we do, go to bensource.com.